Something else here, the fact that the body was dismembered, and I feel horrible saying this because you've got this beautiful girl on the screen who really should still be here, but her body was dismembered, and it seemed to be, the way they had described it, the medical examiner, very badly decomposed, which to me kind of indicated that it had been there for well over a month. And it
started as a scent, a thick, sour presence that hung in the air of a Hollywood toy yard, pulling every officer on duty into a slow-motion nightmare. One worker gagged, others covered their faces as they circled a black Tesla sitting among the everyday detritus of LA's impounded chaos. The source of the stench wasn't subtle. It was leaking from the front trunk, sealed tight but no match for the relentless Southern California heat. When they finally pried open the hatch, no one expected to stumble on the sort of horror usually reserved for movie sets. Inside was a scene that forced even the most jaded detectives to step back. In a plastic-wrapped bundle lay what was left of a teenage girl, dismembered, decomposing, and unclaimed. What started as a routine tow quickly became a scene straight out of a horror movie, one investigator would later mutter to local press. But even that barely scratched the surface.
New details now in a story we've been following for nearly 2 weeks. Singer David has canceled the rest of his U.S. tour after a girl's body was found in the car of his car at a tow yard.
He was scheduled to perform tonight.
Within hours, the plates drew attention. Texas tags on a Tesla traced back to the hottest young star in alt-pop, David Anthony Burke, known to his millions of followers as David. At just 20 years old, he had already made the leap from TikTok's bedrooms to major label showcases, from bedroom beats to sold-out tours and screaming fans. His sound, equal parts indie gloom and Gen Z heartbreak, turned him into a sensation. But as word spread that a body had been found in his impounded car, the entire image curdled overnight. The headlines exploded. What was a teenage girl's body doing in the trunk of a singer's luxury car, parked just blocks from Sunset? Why was it there for days, unnoticed and rotting, before anyone thought to investigate? By morning, the internet had found her name. Celeste Rivas, reported missing out of Lake Elsinore more than a year before, vanished without a trace on what should have been the cusp of her teenage years.
Website, I've gone down these rabbit holes. You look at these lyrics, okay, of Romantic Homicide. I have them right here. He has a line where he says, "In the back of my mind, I you and I didn't even regret it." One of his music videos, I think, he's carrying a casket, or people are carrying a casket. He just seems to have this very sick fascination with
the parallels between the real and the surreal got creepier by the minute. We watched as his lyrics, once quoted by fans in wistful Instagram captions, now ricocheted through police forums and subreddits, dissecting every line for hidden meaning. David's biggest hit, Romantic Homicide, with its lines about obsession, vanishing, and my heart in pieces, was suddenly less poetic and a lot more sinister. Then came the bombshell, rumors of an unreleased song reportedly titled Celeste floating in the inboxes of music bloggers and the DMS of digital detectives, named after the very girl now at the center of this unfolding nightmare. Was this all just coincidence, the sort of morbid symmetry that only seems obvious in hindsight, or was the singer leaving behind musical breadcrumbs, confessions in plain sight disguised as art? We found ourselves wondering, and so did everyone else. Were these songs chilling premonitions, or was David leaving behind clues all along? The question burned across social media, boiling fans into armchair detectives and conspiracy theorists. Some pulled apart every track for hints. Others claimed they'd always seen something off in his performances: the casket at the entrance, the shirt smeared with bloody handprints, the guest books for condolences. Suddenly, all the creative darkness looked less like harmless theater and more like a glimpse into a genuine abyss.
Division is investigating this case. They still have not said it's a correct, meaning that they don't know the cause of death. Obviously, yes, the body was dismembered and was, where the parts were in a bag that was in the Tesla, but they don't know.
It didn't help that the victim, Celeste, had a tattoo on her right index finger that read "shh," a detail that was confirmed by the medical examiner. The same design had started showing up on David's hand too, but only after she'd gone missing. Photos from just weeks before revealed nothing on his finger, but by September, there it was. Crisp and red, just like hers. The tattoo was hardly unique. Rihanna had popularized it years ago. Plenty of celebrities have worn it, but timing is everything. Fans pointed out the disturbing synchronicity, fueling talk that the two were linked by something far more intimate than a passing fashion trend. Celeste's mother told TMZ her daughter's boyfriend was named David. Combine that with the body in the car, the shared tattoo, and the unreleased track with her name. If that's not enough for a Dateline special, we don't know what is.
Always quiet, nice. She come in like, if she buy like like chips, soda, and leave.
The fallout was immediate and devastating. Brand deals crumbled. Within a day, Crocs and Hollister pulled his image from their campaigns, issuing terse statements that they removed campaign content featuring David while the investigation continues. Record labels and management companies slammed on the brakes, Universal, Sony, Wasserman, all refusing to push a new album release that now seemed radioactive. David's tour, which was supposed to rocket through Europe and Australia, fell apart in real time. Venues sent out quiet refund notices. His LA and San Francisco shows, once sold out, were erased from ticketing sites with no explanation, just a yawning silence where pop spectacle had been. Even the Grammy Museum event was scrubbed from the calendar.
Now, in a story we've been following for nearly 2 weeks, singer David has canceled the rest of his U.S. tour after a girl's body was found in the car of his car at a tow yard.
He was scheduled to perform tonight in San Francisco and tomorrow night here in Los Angeles. This comes as police investigate the death of a 15-year-old Celeste Rivas, who was reported missing from Lake Elsinore.
And still, questions spiraled. The police danced around details, stressing that the singer was cooperating, but with every day, the whispers got louder. Why had David's car been abandoned in the Burke streets, a famously wealthy patch of the Hollywood Hills where secrets go to fester? Was it just a coincidence that the Tesla sat for days, shifting spots but never drawing more than a neighbor's passing glance? One described the car as having a big dent and Texas plates, saying, "It's a little weird to see a car that I haven't seen here for a long time. Odd, yes, but hardly enough to raise alarms in a city where the strange is background noise." But nothing stayed hidden for long. The search warrant came next, a midnight raid at a Hollywood Hills address where David had been staying just up the road from where his car was impounded. Detectives carted out electronics and computers, bags of evidence hauled under flashbulb stares, neighbors whispering from behind tightly drawn curtains. Several items of evidence were recovered and will be analyzed by detectives in the coming days. The LAPD confirmed, never revealing exactly what they found or what they expected to find. Was it just about tracking Celeste's final movements, or did they suspect something far worse lurking in those hard drives? If the lyrics were breadcrumbs, maybe the machines would reveal the whole twisted recipe.
The LAPD spent 12 hours searching a house where David had been living. So big developments this week. Sources say they were looking for blood evidence in the house and the garage. Neighbors remember seeing the Tesla regularly parked at that house, and it was abandoned and towed to an impound lot from the same neighborhood.
And this is where Hollywood's imagination kicked into overdrive. We heard talk, some from former road managers, some from property staff, all tinged with rumor that the searched home was more than a celebrity crash pad. People began spinning stories about late-night deliveries, hurried digging in the backyard, shadowy figures slipping in and out long after the cameras should have been gone. Internet sleuths pounced on every angle, speculating about hidden rooms and makeshift graveyards, and even the chance that this wasn't the only secret the house had been keeping. Was there more than one victim? Could the computers seized by the police crack open a web of connections reaching far beyond David's circle?
People in that neighborhood were aware of this house, and not in a good way. We've heard a lot of people say that there were a lot of noise complaints. In fact, this is really strange, is the latest one was last weekend. Now, clearly David was not there in the house, but somebody was playing loud music, and there was a complaint about noise this past.
None of it felt out of bounds anymore. When real life outpaces Hollywood's worst nightmares, the rules change. The LAPD's robbery homicide division, known for taking only the highest profile cases, now had its hands full. Investigators combed through Celeste's social media, photos, comments, anything to suggest how a missing teen from Lake Elsinore ended up chopped up in the trunk of a pop star's Tesla. We learned she'd been last seen walking to school, a child with her backpack, a fingerprint of a future just out of reach. Flyers had covered her street. Her neighbors recognized her big curly hair. They'd seen her on Valentine's Day, one of the last times she was reported missing. Her family, now silent and unreachable, had clung to hope. But hope had run out in the most brutal way possible, and the details only grew darker from there. David's own past was put under a microscope. He'd started in Houston, breaking out with romantic homicides, turning heartbreak into a brand, heartbreak into a career. His stage shows became ever more macabre, with caskets at the door, guest books for condolences, and costumes splashed with theatrical blood. Fans loved it, right up until the day it stopped feeling like play acting. The lines between fantasy and confession started to blur, and the timing, oh, the timing, was impossible to ignore. The tattoo, the song title, the missing girl's body discovered just days after David announced a deluxe album on Instagram. Suddenly, his silence screamed louder than anything else.
We're gonna it's very clear we're going to get to the bottom of this sooner than later. Like they are closing in, and it is heartbreaking to see these images of Celeste now, knowing how she came to her end, but to see her at a very young age in this sort of Hollywood circle, you just wonder how it got to that point for her. And you hope the police can solve it.
As detectives dug through every phone record and internet post, fans trawled old interviews looking for a slip. He has been cooperating with authorities since the body was found, insisted one representative, but the facts on the ground kept shifting. Even as insiders stressed that many different people used the singer's fleet of vehicles, it was David's name that came up on every registration form, every search warrant, every news alert. And while the official cause of Celeste's passing still hung in limbo, pending a final autopsy, toxicology, and the hard science that moves slower than rumors, the LAPD called the case a fatality investigation. Lawyers circled. Some reportedly urged the singer to admit guilt, hinting that the evidence might be too strong to ignore, and always the stakes loomed. A possible life sentence, the fall of a golden boy whose story had seemed written for stardom, not scandal. It was only a matter of time before speculation turned even more sinister. Some sources with knowledge of the search began whispering about cult rumors, talk of an underground group operating in the city's shadows, drawing in lost souls and famous faces alike. Was David connected to something bigger than just a single, horrifying secret? Could the Hollywood Hills property, with its secluded backyard and decades-old rumors, hide evidence of something darker than anyone imagined? The theory was outrageous. Yet not even the most jaded among us could turn away from the possibility.
He didn't just remove shows from his website, also forced to remove some creepy merchandise from his site. So for people who don't know, David was selling a line of button-down shirts with bloody handprints on them. And Lauren, this wasn't like a Halloween thing, right? It was because one of his biggest songs called Romantic Homicide.
We come to the Tesla's silent journey, a journey as twisted as the story it concealed. The car itself became a character, weaving its own cryptic path through some of LA's most exclusive neighborhoods. The Bird Streets, famous for sweeping views and ironclad privacy, are where the Tesla first drew glances. Neighbors watched the matte black vehicle drift from one curb to the next, appearing, disappearing, then reappearing blocks away, never staying put long enough for anyone to get too curious. Was this a nervous owner trying to hide the scent? Or someone buying time, gambling that LA's indifference would work in their favor? Even after the Tesla was left in an empty lot, it wasn't immediately scooped up. Weeks passed, the car blending into the landscape of abandoned riches that dot the city's high-end hills.
And law enforcement sources say much of this case hinges on the medical examiner determining a cause of but given the state of the body, that is proving to be quite...
It wasn't just parked, it was staged. People saw the Tesla in a junkyard, then near a rundown repair shop, each time left somewhere a little more obscure. By the time police were called to the tow yard for the stench, the car had traveled a bizarre circuit through the city's underbelly, as if someone was stringing together a scavenger hunt meant for detectives alone. We can't ignore how intentional it all feels. The question hangs, was this an amateur's panicked cover-up? Or a calculated taunt from someone convinced they'd outsmarted everyone? Every stop, every pause looked like a breadcrumb, a dare for investigators. Was this car hiding evidence? Or was someone trying to create just enough chaos to keep the truth permanently buried? And now the industry that built David, Darkroom Records, has gone almost as silent as that Tesla's Midnight Journeys. Since the scandal exploded, the label has slammed the brakes on everything, pulling promo campaigns, halting his tour, and wiping his name from official press releases as fast as lawyers can draft statements. Behind the scenes, leaks began to drip. One supposed email allegedly from a darkroom exec read, "We have to control the narrative before this ruins everyone." We watched, fascinated, as corporate social media teams deleted every mention of David, while ticket sellers quietly canceled entire tour legs with no public explanation. Multiple insiders, one who claimed to have worked with the artist last year, insist that executives are panicking, trading panicked phone calls late into the night, more concerned about their own futures than justice for Celeste. The pattern is all too familiar. When the music industry's golden goose is threatened, the first instinct is always containment, damage control. But just how far will a label go to protect its investment? Are we watching a cover-up unfold in real time, with powerful figures shielding their star from the very scrutiny the case demands?
So there's this old saying in show business, right? You're only as good as your last show. Basically, your current value or reputation is determined by your most recent performance. David Anthony Burke, who performs under the name David, but he spells it D4VD, Better hope his Monday show in Portland was a good one, a really good one, because as things stand right now, it might be his last show.
This silence isn't just about lost profits. It feels like something bigger, a coordinated effort to cut David off from the world, scrub the internet, and let the news cycle fade. But the vacuum only makes the rumors swirl harder. Could the label have known about the risks or even hints of this secret relationship and simply looked away to protect their bottom line? We can't help but wonder. 3 industry veterans say off the record that top execs have even discussed buying up certain evidence, lyrics, demo tracks, security footage, before police can get their hands on it. The label hasn't commented, but every day of silence only sharpens suspicion. It's impossible to ignore the questions. Was Darkroom's cleanup just legal caution, or a sign they knew exactly how deep David's troubles went? Meanwhile, new revelations keep dragging us deeper. Police sources confirmed they are analyzing a trove of digital evidence, including photos said to show David and Celeste together, smiling, in private settings. Dates and locations blurred for now by ongoing investigation. Some of these images reportedly came from a private phone, others from social media accounts that vanished the moment the story hit the press. The implication is clear if the timeline matches. David wasn't just a name in a lyric, but a real presence in Celeste's life before she went missing. Investigators are following up on several leads, said the LAPD. They're also combing through cryptic posts from David's private alt accounts, lyrics, messages, and DMS that could, in retrospect, form a map of warning signs missed by everyone except the most obsessive followers.
And that was before he was even charged. There were people who backed off and, didn't want to be associated, didn't want to answer any questions about him. That's what happens in showbiz when you suddenly are the focus of things like this. All those people who are your friends go running.
At the same time, brand experts and legal insiders are lining up to weigh in. We've heard from PR consultants, anonymously naturally, who claim that Darkroom was advised to go scorched earth and erase David's online presence, while crisis managers quietly advise staff to prepare for the worst-case scenario. Lawyers, we're told, are reviewing everything, past contracts, insurance clauses, even the language in his merchandise agreements, just in case this case goes all the way to court. And it's not just David's team getting nervous. Universal and Sony, the corporate parents of his label, have paused all promotional activities, as TMZ reported, and sources close to the record business insist this is the fastest retreat they've seen in years. No one wants to touch this story, but it's now the only thing anyone talks about in industry backrooms. Adding gasoline to the fire, social media has transformed the case into a digital circus. Sleuths are racing to connect dots that law enforcement is still piecing together. The tattoo, the lyrics, the abandoned Tesla. All of it recast as either a puzzle box left by a criminal genius or the desperate flailings of a spiraling star. Discord channels, subreddits, even mainstream pop culture sites have joined the hunt for every possible connection between Celeste and David. Some claim to have unearthed deleted TikTok clips where he hints at a missing muse. Others say he once replied to a comment from an account believed to be Celeste's. Is it all coincidence, or are we witnessing the real-time unraveling of a story that was never supposed to see daylight?
Yes. And then, so the latest thing about David, as we said, police have not named him, but we do know that he canceled, for the first time since all of this has been going on, he canceled a show. He had another one scheduled in Seattle tonight, but venues.
It was weird to me that he was kind of going off on this tour to begin with. Like if I'm traveling the country and there's a...
And the wildest twist, if it proves true, could turn this from tragedy to a generational scandal. Law enforcement officials, speaking on background to The Times and TMZ, have started comparing notes from multiple open investigations. Theories are bouncing around that Celeste's disappearance might not be the only one with links to David's social orbit. That infamous Hollywood Hills address, according to one neighbor, has hosted a revolving door of young women and aspiring influencers for months. We're left to wonder, could there be more cases buried in the shadows, waiting for someone to connect the dots? The rumor is chilling, but the police aren't ruling anything out, and neither are we. Meanwhile, the victim's family has retreated from the spotlight. After speaking to TMZ about their daughter's last-known boyfriend named David, they've shut down communication entirely. Grief and media pressure have driven them to silence, a silence now mirrored by the industry, the singer, and the label. Still, the unanswered questions keep mounting. Did anyone at the label suspect something was off when Celeste vanished? What about the managers who scheduled David's tour, placing him in cities miles from where her body was eventually discovered? How many close calls happened behind closed doors, smoothed over with a few phone calls and signed checks? The clock is ticking for everyone involved. As the music world watches its newest star face a possible life sentence, we're left hanging between two realities. Either the lyrics and tattoos were chilling fiction, or David was broadcasting his secrets for the world to hear, only no one was really listening until it was too late. The only certainty is that the investigation is far from over. Each day, a new fragment surfaces, a song, a message, a canceled tour date, a photo taken in a dark corner somewhere in the Hollywood Hills.
We really need answers. The family deserves these answers. There's way too many gaps in this story. And I think we're gonna get there.
Yeah, I think the cops are onto something. Yes.
And so, as investigators sift through every lyric, every hard drive, every rumor and whisper, we find ourselves teetering on the edge of something historic. Was this the dark fantasy of a troubled artist, a self-destructive spiral played out on the world stage? Or have we all been nodding along to songs that were confessing the unthinkable? What if the truth is more twisted than any of us can imagine? Tell us what you think. Are we looking at a misunderstood genius caught in a storm of coincidence? Or is this the most disturbing pop scandal of our generation? Drop your theories in the comments below and make sure you're subscribed because this story is just getting started. Until the next jaw-dropping revelation, stay curious, stay bold, and never take the lyrics at face value.